All right. So what I want to talk about today is connected to two different things that's kind of popular right now. Sort of. All right. Number one, NASCAR, and number two is Ford versus Ferrari, which if you have not seen the film Ford versus Ferrari, it's really worth watching. It's about to come out on, I think it's already out on digital, and it's about to come out on disc. Go find it, pick it up, rent it, whatever, and watch that film because it's amazing. It's got Christian Bale and Matt Damon and John Bernthal, which if you don't know who that is, he was the Punisher. But really, really good film. Really good story behind it, but really good film the way it's done. As much as it's got those big name actors, the star of the show is definitely the Ford GT40. And they shoot it with that intention. It's really well done. But in that, there's a couple of scenes that are really important. In one of them, Lee Iacocca, who's played by John Bernthal, has a scene where it's just people want victory. They want the essence of what victory is. And that's why no one's going to care how many cars Ford built at the end of time, but they will always consider Ferrari as one of the greatest car builders of all times because of his ability to win. His ability to win. They want, and so when people buy Ferrari, they're not just buying a car. They're not just buying 4 tires, rubber, metal, glass. They're not buying that. They're buying a slice of that victory that's attached to it. And so Hank the Deuce comes back, well, we have a NASCAR team, right? Well, and the person is like, well, it's not about just turning left. Which, like, I was talking to someone else about this, and the person's like, but see, like, that's the thing. Like, why do you care about NASCAR? It's just turning left. It's just ovals, which is not true. It's not actually true. There are road courses, and they're starting to involve more road courses in the sport, but the reason why NASCAR is important, to me, and I think to most people that are kind of working class people, is that it is intrinsically connected to what cars are and what cars do. See, when you buy a car, you're going to buy it for 3 main reasons. You're going to consider safety, which is important. A lot of the safety innovations that you have in your car out in your driveway come from racing, not just NASCAR, but racing in general. The 3-point harness, disc brakes, anti-lock systems, all that stuff. Like, a lot of that stuff comes from racing. But the second thing that you're going to consider is, how long is this car going to last me? Am I going to have to buy a new one in a year, 2 years, 5 years? Is it even going to make it to the end of its loan lifespan? Endurance. Number 3, can it go fast? And if you're like a soccer mom with a van, maybe you're not thinking about fast as much as 20-something-year-old guy in a Mustang lot. But you are thinking about it because we all take our cars onto the freeway at some point. You need to get at least up to 75, probably 95 in some of the flatter states and flatter freeways. So we do think, when we think about safety, we think about endurance, we think about speed. That's NASCAR. Because if all we're going to care about is speed, then there are other sports to choose from, motorsports in general. Obviously, the number one would be drag racing. But the thing about drag racing is that it's very fast, undoubtedly. Like, there's some serious speed present in a funny car, but that's also incredibly wasteful. If you didn't know, a funny car, if you don't know what that is, those really long-looking dragsters, the speed and friction that goes into them doing the burnouts will actually weld the clutch plates together, and so that every single time they do a run down the strip, they have to have the entire engine reconstructed from scratch almost. So very fast. Like the drag racers will definitely reach a speed that a NASCAR, that a Formula One car can't reach. But they're also not very endurant. And then there's like 24 hours of Le Mans, there's 24-hour Daytona, there's 24 hours of Sebring, there's other races like that, 24-hour of Lemons, where you're just going around and around and around. And endurance is definitely present there, but a lot of cars will actually sacrifice speed so that some of them aren't even really all that fast, quote unquote. They aren't really all that fast, in order to like that they're just going to outlast the competition of whatever their performance class is. And some of them, they're really small performance classes. There'll be 5, 10, maybe even just 20 cars in them, so there's not real stiff competition there. So you have endurance, but not necessarily the speed. And some of them, they'll even sacrifice safety capacity. So like NASCAR is both of those things. The reason that they're loops, that they're ovals, is that lets you get the most speed and also have you returning to the point of the spectator so that everyone's able to see the entire race. 600 miles, 400 miles. Because, like for me, I have a little bit longer drive than than most people have, but it's only a little longer than average. And so each week, I'll drive roughly 400 miles in my car. And so the idea of a 400-mile race at high speeds kind of matters to me. The performance of a vehicle at that specific, those two specific metrics matter to me. So, and if you live in California, if you live in New Mexico, Texas, some of these real wide open states, an hour-long drive is no big deal. 2 hours even is not a big deal. So that's why those races are that specific length: 400, 500, 800, 600, 300 miles. Because that's an average. This is how much you're going to drive in about a week. So why does now, as far as getting into why any of this matters at all, how do you win? You don't win by committee. That's the second line from the Ford versus Ferrari film that I'm going to focus on. You don't win by committee. You don't win these races by having a executive board somewhere that's just going to decide stuff. You need to have people that have put their own wrenches into the cars to decide who's going to win. And that's why, like throughout most of racing history, the owner driver has been so competitive because he knows his car to the letter. A kind of subtle secret aspect of most motorsports, but specifically like NASCAR, Formula One, is the race is almost always determined prior to the haulers pulling into the track. We just don't know what the outcome is yet until the checkered flag waves. And I don't mean that in like it's fixed, that they're cheating. I don't mean it like that. What I mean is that because of the fact that your car has to start the race and make it to the end, most of the time, the way that it's built and tested is what's going to determine the outcome. There are occasional instances where, crashes, and they kind of show off the driver capacities here and there, but for the most part, the dominant car is the one that's going to win. And you could change out drivers all you want, that same car piece of equipment is what's really competing. And we're just waiting to see what these people have built, to see what it is that they've shown. How this matters to me, how this matters to this specific channel, I guess, is that we all have a race. And some people think that it's all about speed in the race of their life. And so they're just going to grind really fast. They're going to try to make as much money as they can, and then that's it. And then they're going to die with a large bank account, leave it to their kids to be squandered. That's the summary of Ecclesiastes. It's all vanity. I'm going to try foolishness. I'm going to try wisdom. I'm going to try wealth. I'm going to try alcoholism. I'm going to try sex. I'm going to try marriage. I'm going to try all these things and just waste my life on materialistic stuff. And then at the end of the race, I've done nothing. And it ends up being that all you did was just burn yourself out through the drag strip, and now there's another race beyond that you can't compete in because you weren't built for endurance. And then there's some people that think it's such a long view, or that this is such a long race that I don't need to do anything now. I can wait until my kids grow up. I can wait until I retire. I can wait until I have kids. I can wait till I get married to really start taking life seriously, because this stuff early doesn't really matter. This early, the early lap reps, stuff like that, doesn't really matter. I can just figure stuff out later. Right now, I just want to have fun in college and drink beers and break commandments. I can worry about my morality later. And that's the summary of every kid that's accidentally wrapped their car around a tree on the way home for Christmas break or something. That's the story of, that's the story of so many people, that they squander their whole young adult, their whole adult life, their whole parenting life, thinking that there will be coming a day later when you can deal with stuff. And then as a youth pastor, that's when parents bring their kid and throw them into a chair across the desk from me and say, hey, listen, my kid's now sleeping around, they're into drugs, they've contemplated suicide, they've attempted suicide, they're depressed, fix them for me, because I don't know what to do. To which I would say, of course you don't know what to do, because of the fact that you've been pretending like there is nothing to do. See, in Hebrews it talks about that let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Looking to Jesus, that Jesus is our archetype, he's our stereotype, he is our example. That he didn't just start well like a dragster. He didn't just burn himself out really, really quickly. He didn't start his ministry till 30 years old. He had a long life of just swinging a hammer and doing regular working class stuff before ministry ever began. But once he got into it as well, he took every moment, every conversation seriously. And he didn't just finish well either. He didn't just, well, I'll retire and then that's when I'll start taking responsibility then either. He did both. He did throughout the entire duration of his life. He took his mission seriously. He took his life seriously. And at the end, he was there when the checkered flag waved. And that's what we need to do. That's what NASCAR is for me. That's why I enjoy it. That's part of the reasons, one of the many reasons why I enjoy it. Allows me to reflect on things like this and think about it in ways that no one else does, because they don't have the level of mental illness that I do. But nevertheless, that's why NASCAR.